Good morrow, nerds, and welcome to the LARP House Patreon workshop. It has been a second since I put out an actual crafting tutorial just for you guys, so here I am. I'm back with an episode featuring one of my all-time favorite inspiration sources, the original Fishman, the creature from the Black Lagoon. And because we had the same inspiration, this ends up being sort of celebratory of the shape of water as well, because I'm going to show you how I made my very own scale suit for a space mermaid type character, and I started making this before I saw any media of the shape of water at all, so any similarities, it's actually just a coincidence, but I absolutely loved the movie to death anyway, so I'm here for it. Good. So these are the original sculpts for the scales, because yes, I did cast a million individual scales and lay them on. I made a mold for it so that I could cast them all in latex. And if you want to see the full process for how I made the molds, you can check out the video that I'm going to link here. It's the exact same process that I use very often and that I used in the Prosade transfer video. So, what I cast them in is a mask latex, which is really just a really thick latex rubber, so just find a thick option, and I'm coloring it with a little bit of acrylic paint. I'm really not worrying too much about the color because it's going to have a lot of paint on it anyway, so I'm just mixing in a little bit of a real basic color and sponging it into the molds like so. Later in the process, I started using a silicone basting brush that people use for cooking because I didn't want to waste so many sponge brushes or chip brushes. But I do this for about 4 to 6 layers and just make as many of these as I can possibly make. Here I just started arranging them in the pattern that I had in my mind so that I know generally what I'm going for when I start to lay them out on the suit. Here I have just used a sort of stretchy spandex-like top that I had lying around and didn't want to wear anymore. You can buy your own at dancewear shops online, super easy to find. And the next step is to just start sticking on scales using the really thick latex as a sort of glue. Just smooth them on like so. And if you don't have your own mannequin like this, which most of us don't, I will link to a good tutorial about how to make your own duct tape mannequin in the description. So this is what it looks like when it starts to come together. It is okay to have little gaps showing in between scales. We're going to paint over this whole thing with another coat of latex so you can really have a little bit of freedom in how you choose to lay your scales out. And when I lay my scale patches on the suit, I like to just go over the edges with some more latex just to really secure it down as much as possible. That can also help to hide the edges and make it all look a little more smooth and a little bit less like a patchwork scale monster. I kind of unconsciously emulated actual armor in the way I was laying out my scales. I sort of put the teeny tiny scales where chainmail would show, and then larger plates in places that would need, you know, more protection, the chest, the shoulders, that sort of thing. And next I am cutting off the turtleneck part of this. I would love to have left that on, but it did not have a zipper, and with these suits, once you put a lot of latex on them, they lose a lot of their stretchiness, so you have to make sure that your head will actually fit. And then here I'm deciding which scale pieces to put on in order to blend it later. So now I'm going to talk about the back fin a little bit. This is something I had lying around from a previous project, and it was cast in silicone, so I just brushed a bunch of layers of latex on top of it to create a sort of positive cast. And so I had a hollow sort of skin. And I could have filled that skin with some actual expanding foam, but I decided to just use something a little more accessible and stick on makeup sponges with some latex in the place where I wanted these spiny fin bits to be. And once I had figured out exactly where I wanted it to be, I stuck on the makeup sponges so that it would sort of fill the fin and keep it stiff, and what I did later was brush a large seam of latex to attach the whole thing, and it actually worked out great. The final thing I'm doing before taking it off the dress form is going over it with a couple layers of really thinned down colored latex. This helps blend the seams just a little bit, make it look a little bit like it's all one piece, and it helps make it stronger and less likely to split and break. And because you will recall, I said earlier that once this fabric has latex painted on it, it loses a lot of its stretchiness. I put it on my own body, since I'm going to be the one wearing it, and had a bunch of friends paint the rest of the latex on. This is so that once it dries, it would still fit me, even though I do have a towel wrapped around my lower body so it didn't stick to me too bad. We mixed a really thin mixture of the latex and coated the whole thing so that it would all be a uniform base color for as much time as I could stand to be in that latex suit. Because, you know, that's a super fun way to spend a whole lot of time not being able to put your arms down. It's great. And after I got it off and transported it to Poland, I finished up the paint job. And the paint, I'm showing it to you, I've already made some progress because it's so super easy. It's just a lot of dry brushing. That is why I love doing so much sculptural work before the paint job, because it allows you to just dry brush and still get a really decent looking paint job without a whole lot of work on that end. And I'm using the same methodology that I always use for dry brushing, like you guys might remember from the King in Yellow mask video. I start with a really deep and dark color and slowly build up to a light color and finish off with some highlights. And what I have done in this next shot right here is taken a really high contrast photo so that you guys could really see the paint and the colors that I used. I used a blue that faded to a deep purple that faded to the base color, which was really dark, and then I added some speckles and highlights and stuff. But it's a really easy paint job and it has a whole lot of payoff. And that is how I became a siren and almost drowned and ate several students at Choha College of Witchcraft and Wizardry. Thank you guys so much for watching, and thank you for staying on with me month after month. It helps me more than I can possibly express with words, especially now that I have moved to Germany, an entirely new country, and am settling in. So you guys are magical. Keep being magical. And thank you for liking us, subscribing to us, and fighting with us.
You taunt me with your wiggles!
Do it.
It's so hard not to do. It's, you guys are so mean. Can somebody itch my forehead?